close the door and then we
We'll
should.
just start it.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, it's only gonna take 2 minutes anyway.
It's interesting you think we're ready.
Okay,
Good evening and welcome to the Media Town Board meeting Thursday, June 5th, 2025. And I'd like to open the meeting and then go immediately into executive session.
Okay,
What's that?
you're making a motion to enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters.
That's the one.
You have to say, this evening we will be including the planning board chairman and planning board secretary.
Right. And then the applicants and the CEO, the building inspector, will come in for the next set of interviews. And I guess I'm going to ask the town clerk to stay and take minutes unless someone else wants to volunteer to do that.
You made a motion?
Was that a motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Um,
So, good evening. I'd like to welcome you
To the, everyone's mics on? Nope. To the Town of Armenia Board Meeting on June 5th of 2025. What? Do I have to say that before I do that? Okay, so we're first going to exit executive session and make the motion.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I would like to open the meeting, open tonight's meeting, the public meeting. And we'll start as we always do with pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the emergency exits, in case anyone hasn't heard this before, is the door you came in, this door over here. And Dawn, roll call.
Supervisor Thompson?
Here.
Council members Revillard?
Here.
Ham? Here. Ahern? Here. All present.
Okay. I move that we accept tonight's agenda as written. Well, someone. Otherwise, we're going to
Are
say
you
it all.
make the motion?
Yes.
I just said,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Discuss, oh, you mean about the agenda, sure.
Yeah. I want a motion to move the resolution of appointing the board member to the end of the meeting after our second session for legal counsel.
Okay, sure. Okay. So do we move to accept the rest of it as a changed version? As amended. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda's accepted.
Okay, great. We'll have public comment now. This is only on things that are on the agenda. There's a second public comment at the end for things that aren't. Yes, Ken?
Thank you and good evening. It's not on the agenda. I apologize.
Then you have to wait for the second public
I have to
comment.
read them. So I ask your indulgence.
No, because I told all these people that they couldn't do what they want to
Okay.
talk about now. But we're already
It's
hearing
about
next
whether
time.
could the board invite the public to Monday's comprehensive plan.
Oh, no, then you could definitely do that. That's an
Okay.
invitation. Okay.
On Monday evening, 6 o'clock here at Town Hall, the comprehensive plan review procedure process is going to move forward, asking all stakeholders, all residents of Armenia to attend so that they can voice what they see the needs of the community are commercially, socially, economically, from a housing standpoint to a beautification standpoint, environmental. This is one of the most important things that will come out of this year. It's what will determine the course of Armenia's development and growth and happiness for the next 10 to 20 years. In Connecticut and Jersey, these plans are law and carry the weight of law. In New York, they're not. They are, however, evidentiary in court hearings. So please, tell everyone you know, come out, and hope to see you there, and hope that we all work together to move this from the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, everyone should be heard. And so please come on Monday evening and let the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee know your thoughts. Okay, so the supervisor's report. The highway garage, the numbers have been a bit high, more than a bit, and we met with the architect engineer on Friday to review the estimate and look at things that we could toss overboard. And we will present options to the board in the next meeting next Thursday. And just again, in case anyone didn't get the message, our next meeting is going to be on the 12th of June, a week from today. because the week after that was Juneteenth, and so we moved it earlier. On the sidewalk to Beekman Park, New York State DOT is awaiting a material submission from the general contractor, so it's been delayed by a few days until that gets approved. The town website is very close to completed, and Charlie will present the features to us shortly. The LED sign, we're waiting for finalized fabrication and installation schedule. The farmer's market, I have continued to be talking to people and calling a lot of vendors, and we're making some progress, but I'm not going to announce that it's really happening until we have vendors all signed up. Main Street, I hope that we can get all the committee chairs who had regarding connecting the dots back together to talk about things they have in common. So I think there was some trouble deciding on a date, so I hope that that can be resolved. And also, just so you know, New York State DOT, when I met with them about the sidewalk program, the sidewalk project, provided contacts at DOT for different kinds of questions and issues, so that's more news than we had before. Fountain Square is kind of bogged down at the moment. New York State DOT made it clear that they need to review and approve the project because it's in their right of way. And that means that we need complete engineering drawings for the work that we want to do in terms of upgrading the electric and repairing or replacing the pavement. So that has to be done now, and that will delay the bank's planning scheme till fall. Hopefully not next spring, but certainly till fall. Department of Buildings, we interviewed the first of 8 applicants for the part-time building inspector job in our executive session, and we will probably be following up with a few others. And recreation, I'll move to Judy to talk about the grant that they've been pursuing. Okay, that's my report.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. As the supervisor has made an announcement, we will have a special meeting next week, next Thursday, June 12th, in this room at 7 p.m. So the paper has been notified. It's also posted at the town clerk official bulletin board and on our door as you came in this evening. For the month of May in the town clerk's office, the state, local, and county revenue that has been collected is in the amount of $1,677.50, having been remitted to the supervisor, the amount of $1,645, and the remaining sent out to the appropriate states departments. For our tax collection, as we are winding down, so anyone that is looking out today to find out how much they owe or when and where you can pay your taxes, taxes are now being collected at the Dutchess County Commissioner of Finance office. For those that did pay, the total amount collected in the local office was $8,224,632.53. Collected in penalties was $22,439.40 and $48 in notice fees. Total amount that is going to be turned over to the Dutchess County Commissioner of Finance is $783,668.34. And as a breakdown, that's 1,956 parcels to which is paid to date, and the remaining 75 of what is being remitted to the Commissioner of Finance. Circulated prior to this meeting was the May 15th minutes, as the board had the opportunity to review. And are you ready to go ahead and accept?
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I do share 2 community activities coming up. We do have a chess game going to take place in the middle meadow, right there in Main Street, Wassaic. That's a little area between General Store and the Lantern. So if anybody likes to play chess, come on down to Wassaic on June 14th, and it's going to begin at 7 p.m. So you may have seen the sign already up posted around the town hall, and I know it's been circulated out on social media as well as our website. So that is a fun community event if anybody likes to play chess. Also, save the date, it's about to come, because on July 1st, we are going to have our second blood drive here at the town of Amelia, and this time it'll be at the Amelia Firehouse. With that said, that concludes tonight's town clerk's report.
Great. We've been working for quite a while now on the Amelia website, trying to make it sort of more up to date and easier to use. And Charlie's going to present the result. Take it away, Charlie.
Sorry, we have sort of a gerrymandered situation over here. The town board has received a link to this demo site, which is what this is here. So most of it shouldn't be really shocking. So I'll just run through quickly. It mirrors the site map that was put together a while back and that all of you guys were okay with. There are a couple of different sections. So government is pretty much anything that is government related. So there's sections for elected officials, citizens advisory groups. So unlike our old website, every committee, board, commission has their own page. And on that page, there are linked documents on the left-hand rail. So it either links to different sections of the site, it links to external sites, or to documents that are pertinent to that particular group. And then all of the members of that particular committee or board or commission are here, as well as links out to the minutes and agenda for those. So it's pretty robust. People can sort of click through. The site's also in responsive design, so if you look at it on your phone, you'll actually see it all changes around and becomes very easy to read. The home page, there's a search function here, which you can search for like any term or whatnot, and it should return like either pages or documents that relate to that term. And as people search for things, these top searches here, it'll present a couple of words of the most frequently searched terms. There's quick links, which somewhat is similar to our current site, but is a little different, or there's more. So minutes and agenda, a lot of people are always looking for minutes and agenda for the various boards and stuff. So there's actually a module in the site that will give you the agenda, the minutes. In some cases, the minutes and agenda are put together, and a link to the video for that particular meeting, if that meeting is recorded, which is like the town board meeting, planning board, and ZBA. And then you can search for, under categories, the different types of boards and committees, and then you can do a date range there. I won't go through everything. Maybe I'll get to a point where you might have questions. So calendar of events, pay bills. So to the extent that people are in the water district, you can pay your water bill here, town taxes.
Charlie, could you go into the calendar? Because I love that.
Yeah, totally.
I think that was a great, the layout's really nice when you go over something, right?
Oh, yeah.
The little pop-up that.
Yeah, and you get everything. I will also say, so you can click directly to there. If you scroll down too on the home page, there is.
Right, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah. So these are the town activities and events. So what presents over here on the left-hand side are the events of the day. So like, there was line dancing, which we saw earlier. The karate is going on now, our town board meeting. If there were more, there would be a pagination thing here, so you can click down and you'd see the others, and then you can click through. And if you click over on the calendar itself, it will show you, what is happening these particular days. Like on the 9th, community swim. The activities have only been updated through the end of April, so we'll put everything in once the site goes live. Frequently asked questions. This also, you can go over to view all, and then you'll get even more of the most frequently asked questions. So hopefully this alleviates a little bit of people calling into the town clerk and the planning board, zoning board, probably not. But images of our town. So the Historic Society gave us a lot of images here, and you can click through and see, it kind of goes, the idea was a progression through historic and then somewhat to today. Sorry, it's not quite as, this spotlight here is like the, what you really want to focus on the most that's sort of coming up. Sort of the community engagement workshop with the comprehensive plan committee is on here now. I imagine this will be replaced by something else, and then probably closer to July, the music series will appear here.
Does that automatically change based on what's in the calendar?
It doesn't. It's something specific. So on the back end, when you enter an event, there's a radio button that you can check to have it spotlighted, and you can only have one thing spotlighted at a time. Yeah. So like that's sort of a good question about calendaring of events. So let's use the Summer Music Series as one. So you would enter, each one of those event dates on the calendar. If you wanted to, you could put a news and notice, which would appear here, and then you could also have, the news and notice focus here too. Yeah, to spotlight it. The current news and notice is where every notice that like the town clerk, the board puts out would appear here. The first couple are on this carousel, and then you would click view all, and you would come to a page that had all of them in chronological order. And then there's a footer at the very bottom of the page. Oh, so subscribe to notices. Everybody's been asking, what about the emergency notification and everything else? You can do that from 3 different places. One is here if you scroll all the way down. It's also at the top, which is Stay Connected. If you click on here and put in your information, you can, by default, if you uncheck everything on this page and subscribe, you're subscribing to emergency notifications. In the back end, an administrator would put an emergency notification out, and that would go to everybody. And you could either get that by email, text, or both. And the same thing with agenda. So let's say that the town board had a very specific meeting and wanted everybody to know about. On the back end, when you publish that agenda, you click a button and it will push it out to everybody who's subscribed to agendas. You wouldn't want to do that for everything, but for things that are really important. Are there any questions about the homepage or anything like that? I won't necessarily go through all of the different things because I know there's a lot of stuff to go over tonight. There are several different ways to get to certain things that are frequently looked for. So a good one is Parks and Recreation. So, you can get to Park Recreation through going under departments. You could go to Government and Recreation Commission. You could go here, and then you can also click Parks and Recreation. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get into the content that you're looking for. One thing that I will say is that under Explore Armenia, the places to these categories are really a business directory, and that will come later. We first need to gather all that information, so that's not there. But it's cool. We have a section for town history, and all of this is living. We can add, we can take away. It's pretty simple on the back end to do that. So there's a lot of really interesting information, in my opinion. Under public safety, there a lot of people might not know about an ambulance service, so it's all here as to what it does. Both fire districts no longer have a site of their own, so this is where some of that information can exist for them. So you can come and you can find out, who are, volunteers with the fire department, their equipment, all of that stuff. I'm still working with the fire department to make sure everything here is correct, but you can surf to it. Some people might not know we have town constables and what they do. You can now come to the site and find out. The last thing I'll say is report a problem. So our site currently has this. I don't think anybody uses it. I don't know what happens to it. There's a couple places you can get to report a problem. This is really a simple, you click on this and it pulls up an email and you send it to the right person. So code compliance and zoning goes to the building department. Highway goes to the highway department, water district. Other is Dawn's office. So she's other for now, anyway. And that can also be changed as to where that goes. And those emails can go to an email distribution list and multiple people get them if we wanted. You guys have any questions?
I do.
Yeah, go.
Who is the back end?
So the most of town hall staff that have touched the website have gone through training. Erica kind of does the majority of the things that are posted. Nancy does the postings for some things as well as the town board agenda. So for now, the administrators, and we can give them different rights, but I'm working with the town clerk's office to decide exactly who is going to be responsible for what. The majority of the things that get posted to the site should really be news and notices and putting in calendar events. And most of that stuff has been done by Erica. We can have administrators that have rights to just one page. So I know the Recreation Commission would like to have, admin rights to the recreation page, or maybe the Parks and Rec page, and we can do that. All administrators have rights to the agenda and minutes section. So that just by default, if you're an admin, you're able to upload agenda, packets, minutes, and videos. So theoretically, we could have administrators for some of the, like, the zoning board, the ZBA and planning board. Bridget will be an administrator probably to administer the documents that go there. That's what I want to show you because I love this. Let's find planning and zoning. So planning and zoning is another, there's a couple of different ways to get to it. So there's clearly a planning and zoning office with an amazing staff person. And so, you know, but applications go to the planning board if you're looking to do like a subdivision, lot line change or something. We have this on our site, but right now it's really funky. So here you can go and you can actually find applications that are currently under review. And these are accordions, so like if you were interested in, you know, the Cascade Mountain lot line realignment, you could come here and find all of the information from that application. And then the application documents link out to what those are, you know, like so the letter from the engineer. Did I answer your question about admin? Any others? So we're planning on going live on Monday. Look, there's going to be hiccups. There will be stuff that's wrong. Nobody, you know, nobody's going to.
Oh, I do know. Were you able to look into the pay bill option for rec, to be able to attach the rec on there if we need to take credit cards?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question about adding pages. So there are two different really types of template pages. Let's do department. So a department page has the contact section on the side here, and it has the left-hand navigation where you can have documents. So that's one. And then there are just regular pages. So a regular page would be like Park and Rec, here we go, we're in the Summer Music Series. So here, you don't have the contact section over there, but you still have this rail. So we can create as many of these pages as we want to. We just have to tell the developer, we want this page because they have to put it someplace inside the navigation. And then we can customize all of the content on it. It's drag and drop. It's like, I want 2 columns, so you get 2 columns. Or I want radio buttons, or I want the accordion that we saw with the planning board. It's all drag and drop. So if you wanted a page to pay for stuff, or even if you wanted to make a page for an event that had a subscription service, we can do that, and maybe you're linking out to PayPal or something like that.
Yeah, no, I meant from like the pay bills button.
Oh, we totally can. So the pay bills.
If you click on that, it takes you to different, like, departments to pay stuff. Right?
Yeah, exactly. We could again. So this is that page template that just has
Okay.
buttons.
Okay.
So these buttons take you to a third-party shop. Like we
Right.
use BAS for our collecting our town taxes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but if you would need a third-party vendor for that. Yeah.
Okay.
But like the PayPal's of the world are probably those quick. Or Square. Yeah, same thing. You know. Yeah. Any others?
Will there be a station on the people sign up?
To sign up for the subscribe to notices and things? Yes, you can, I think that probably what we are thinking is that we can post the site maybe the following week on social media to give it a week for us to get all the bugs out. And we can totally post, we can have people just send, this link, and then that's where they can subscribe. We also have people's contact information that we will upload into the site, of people who have subscribed to other things. So that'll be there. Any others?
So the only point, because this is a big thing for this particular administration, is that you want to be able to get alert notices out. You're going to sign up, and then you're going to receive an email. You have to go ahead in your email and go ahead and check it and accept it. So it is a 2-point step that that the user is going to have to go ahead and accept it. And once they verify it, because we'll see it in the back end, and then we can go through and verify it for them, but they want to be able to know, that way they know what they're looking at after they get it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, no one will hear about the next tornado.
Yeah. Well, and there's also federal law that you ultimately, an individual has to subscribe to email marketing, which ultimately is what this is. Yeah.
Charlie, thank you. This is really amazing.
I'm sorry?
Contacts, if you want to contact town hall.
So under
At the bottom, usually. most-
there's a staff directory
Okay.
that you can click on and you can find all the staff, so this needs to be updated. Yeah, all right, thanks.
Looks great.
So discussion is next. And I think the first thing there is reviewing the tax exemptions that were discussed about having apartments for grandparents, or family members, and also ways to encourage accessory dwelling units, since there's no funding available to support that. So I know that, Brad, you wanted Donna to be here, so do you have specific questions for her?
Well,
Donna DePippo, our tax assessor, excuse me.
so, you know, Charlie and I both had spoken to you about some of the questions you had at the time. Well, for example, I think you had mentioned, well, if we're going into what's the criteria for the fire company, and what criteria do they have, and how do they incorporate into what we're offering, and how many are qualified, what are the qualification requirements, and things like that. That's part of
Is that something you want me to speak to?
Sure, yeah. And also, if you go through the list of items, you want to talk about, you know, how this potentially impacts, you know, our tax rolls and, you know, maybe how much it would.
And you're gonna have to do the podiums.
Yeah.
But you probably figured that out.
Yeah, I did. Yes. So tonight, are we talking about the firefighter and,
Go.
All of them.
Tax exemption, all the exemptions that were.
Yeah, all three.
It was EPU,
The red one. It turns out you put your
you
finger
have to
in.
press on it.
it was,
Oh, okay.
Here.
So we already have seen
is that better?
So now we're talking about this.
So you want to discuss all three?
Yes.
Yes, and
Exemptions?
you should put the microphone closer to your face. I really want you to stand up.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I guess what we'll do, we'll go over the first one, which would be the firefighter exemption. And actually, I have made up some sheets. Do you folks want copies of that so you can follow along?
Oh, wow, sure.
Well, I just figured you might as well, I'm assuming what we're doing is reviewing them, right? So,
Mhm.
Hello. Good, how are you? Sorry, it's kind of small. I'll give your glasses on.
Thank you, I did.
You're welcome. So the first page basically represents, this is really for your accessory dwelling unit. And there's two exemptions that I guess are being proposed for 421F and 469. So that spreadsheet, I basically looked at all of the Hudson Valley. So every county in the Hudson Valley. How many towns, villages, and cities were in that area? There's 264. For the 421F, it looked like two of those. And again, this is the Hudson Valley. This is not throughout the entire New York State because it would have taken quite some time. So there were two towns, villages, or cities that adopted the 421F, and there are 5 that adopted the 469. 469 would be the living unit for a parent or a grandparent, and the 421F would be an additional dwelling unit. And basically, it'll describe, you know, where in Hudson Valley it is. And then if you look to the far right, it will tell you if those counties adopted either one of them. So this just gives you an idea of who adopted them, because unfortunately, I have not administered either one of those two exemptions. I have the firefighter, but not these other two. So I basically took the liberty to reach out to a couple of the assessors in the Hudson Valley to get their feedback, if that was something that you wanted to do. That would be up to you. But if we start with the firefighter, that's going to be on the next pamphlet that I gave you. Dutchess County has a listing out for all of the towns, villages, fire districts, school districts that have already approved that exemption. So for instance, the schools, you have 8 out of 13 that have already approved it. The towns, you have 14 out of 20. There are another 2 cities that I don't think have approved it yet. You have 5 out of 8 villages who have approved it, and 9 out of, I didn't have the number of total fire districts, I apologize. And then that list will tell you, they adopted, I think across the board, everyone did adopt the full 10%, which is an option for every town board. You can go from 1% to 10%. But it does look like everyone had done the 10. And again, this is really just statistical information for you to consider when you're considering your exemptions. And then on the last section, it will say local option, and that's going to give you, if you did a lifetime membership, and I'll go through those with you, but there are different options that the town board could consider, which is, I believe, what you were asking me.
Most of them seem to do all 3. I mean, or have 3 exemption ones.
Yeah, well, when you look at that one, local options, you'll
Mhm.
see ABC. Those are the 3.
Yeah.
And you're right, most of them are, but some of them aren't.
Yeah.
For whatever reasons, they have the right to, review them. So the firefighter, it must be their primary residence, and this is volunteer firefighter and ambulance, so it would be both. The eligibility is determined by the governing board, which would be the town board, for a resolution. Example of the eligibility could be based on LoSAP hours, hourly volunteered hours, a combination of each, or anything that the board sees fit. So that was to one of your questions. The town board would have to decide how eligibility would be constructed. And Ian, by all means, if I'm saying something that you don't agree with, because I mean, again, I'm just reading the law, I'm going by what we've done in the past, but by all means, please, I'll defer to you. So that's something that the town board would consider. How are they going to qualify these participants? In some towns, the town supervisor will confirm qualifications and the criteria, working with the fire departments, and then that report is then given to the assessor. That's not to say it has to be that way, that's just one way that they've done it. And then how the eligibility is determined is very important that that be in the local resolution. I'm assuming that you know that as well, right? Because the people would have to know what criteria is being used in order to qualify. There is another local option to choose the percentage of the exemption, which we just went over. The exemption is not capped like other exemptions, so if it's 10%, it's 10% of the whole. Whatever the assessment is, they would get 10%. Option 3 is when they allow for lifetime members of 20 years of service or more. And option 4, I don't believe is going to apply here. That has to do with unremarried spouses who would be able to get the exemption, but my understanding, and Ian, you can correct me, but it seems to me that the exemption would have to have been given to the person prior in order to do that. So I did attach all of this in the law so you can review it. They would have to file by March 1 in the assessor's office with the certification of entitlement, or if we were working with the town board, we could take it on a master list. There was a 3-year sunset period for this law. Previously, we had a 466A, and that is going to sunset at the end of 25. This is the new law that would be available for everyone, and it has been up until this point. The only thing that I would point out is this law would have had to have been adopted had the town already had the prior law. Because you had never had a firefighter or ambulance, this isn't something that you have to act on in the year 2025. People who had it would be acting on it immediately. I think that covers most of the options, but you do have it. I gave you the copy. Again, these are my notes. So
No, this is great, this is perfect.
Okay. Any questions that you would have legally? I would defer to Ian. The next exemption is the living quarters for parent or grandparents. So I've attached that law as well. So basically with that one, I think I told you, there are 264 towns, villages, and cities in the Hudson Valley, of which 5 offer the real property tax law 469 exemption. Marbletown had 2 of them, Clydehill had 1, Rochester had 2, Romedale had 1, and Gardner had 5. As Gardner had the most exemptions, that was the assessor that I reached out to, because I thought he would have the most experience, I would think. Unfortunately, he was new to the office, he only started in March. However, his assessment clerk had been there for quite some time. So I did have the opportunity to speak with her. Basically, this is what she offered to us. She said their town had adopted the exemption in 2005. In 2023, they had 5 exemptions. So it is important that I mention the spreadsheet that I gave you is from the Office of Real Property Tax Services. It's their exemption site for summary exemptions. The last year that they had available was 2023. So any of the data that I'm mentioning is from that year. 2024, I would think, will be posted soon. I did reach out to the state, but it isn't as of yet. So basically, the exemptions renew annually for this exemption. The duration of the exemption is basically indefinite. It really goes hand in hand with the parent or grandparent who are 62 years or older that live in the unit. Basically, once they stop living in the unit for whatever reason, the exemption ends at that point. And this, again, is what was explained to me by somebody else's experience, because I have not administered these. So it basically ends, the exemption would end with the parent or the grandparent once they are not occupying the premises. The examples of the required proof, they accept birth certificates, because what you're doing is you're giving an exemption to a parent or a grandparent, 62 years or older. So you have to link, somehow prove, right, that this is a parent or a grandparent. They tend to do that through, I guess, a paper trail of birth certificates, but then if it's the same owner, she said they really don't. You know, it's the same name, I'm sorry, it's the same name. But the whole point is that it has to be a grandparent or a parent. So how do you prove that? So these are just different ways on how this would have to be administered. So that would establish the relationship of the owner to the parent or the grandparent. Utility bills would be another. Income tax return showing the address, because again, they have to live there in that unit. Driver's license, renter's certificate of insurance, these are all things that they would ask for, meaning that we would also probably have to do the same thing to administer it. She did state that their building inspector does inspect the properties. Obviously, they have to when they do the building, the CO for the building, but they confirm that it is an independent living unit for the assessor's department. So apparently that must be one of the criteria, so they do that. The exemption itself, it looks like there's 3 local options that the board would have to consider in order to grant the exemption. So they would have to choose one of the 3. Basically, the exemption could be an increase attributed to the construction or the reconstruction of the unit. So the example would be if the unit was $100,000, the exemption would be $100,000. The second option is 20% of the total assessed value for the property as improved. So if the property is $250,000, that exemption would be 20%, $50,000. If it was $500,000, it would be $100,000. The third option would be 20% of the median sale price established by the county commissioner. Unfortunately, I couldn't find that online. I did take one of the medians that I had found of $320,000, so 20% would be $64,000. So those are the 3 options that the town would have. There was some talk about the difficulty in monitoring the residents, the parent or the grandparent. This would have to be done annually. It could prove to be a little bit more difficult than not to prove that this person is who they are and they're still living there, but I imagine we could figure out how that would be done. One of the questions I wasn't sure, but I would think that I'm not totally familiar with your zoning codes, but it it seems to me that in a couple of them, they do identify that the zoning sections for accessory dwelling units may be in the resolutions when they do them, which I think one that I saw that was prepped had that in there. So that would be it for that particular unit. The home improvement exemption, 421F, is a little bit more complicated than that. Office for property, okay. So again, with this one, that'll be on the spreadsheet as well. Out of the 264 towns, villages, and cities in the Hudson Valley, in 2023, there were 2 who offered the home improvement exemption, which is the 421F. The cities of Newburgh and the cities of Port Jervis. City of Newburgh had a total of 6 exemptions. City of Port Jervis had 36 exemptions. So I reached out to the City of Port Jervis assessor to obtain any information that they were willing to share with us. The assessor was very helpful and offered the following of her interpretations of the exemptions. It is not a requirement that the property be owner occupied. Once the property transfers, the exemption is removed. Interior renovations to create a living unit are acceptable. A portion of the home must be 5 years old before an additional living unit can be added. So that is an interesting part, and that goes on to, for example, if one wanted to double the size of the square footage and put on a second accessory unit, the new dwelling unit would not exceed 49% with the existing. No, I'm sorry, did I say that wrong? The new dwelling unit could not exceed 49%. I apologize. And the other unit, the main unit, who would have to be 5 years old or older, would have to retain the other 51%. The addition cannot be the majority of the building. That would be something that I don't know how we would administer that. That would, I guess we'd have to work with your department, because you in the end would be confirming that they meet that criteria of 49% or lower in order for us to grant it. The new dwelling unit must be part of the original structure. For example, a detached garage with an accessory apartment would not qualify for the exemption. The market value of the new living unit must be between $5,000 and $80,000. The town board has the discretion to choose the minimum and the maximums. The exemption duration and exemption percentages are also at the discretion of the town board, up to 8 years as a maximum, but the board would be able to choose less than that. The city adopted, their city had adopted it in a 4-year plan, so they did 100% in the first year, 75 in the second, 50 in the third, and 25 in the fourth, and then in the 5th year it terminates. She also mentioned criteria for the cost of the building permit and market value to be part of the law. I didn't get to really research that part of it, so I could always, we could review that. And again, there's multiple decisions. So any of the decisions that the board would consider, again, they're all legal decisions, and I would definitely defer to Ian on all of that. So there's many things to consider with these laws, but certainly they're doable, and it gives the board, an idea on who has them and how many they have.
No, that's great. Thank you very much
You're
for
welcome.
figuring all this out, because it is
Well, I
really hard.
didn't-
What?
I said, I don't know what I figured out.
Come on.
I was able to review it, that was it.
And thank you for
You're
informing
welcome.
all of the community. So ideally, for example, if you were going to apply for one of these units, where would you start?
If you were gonna apply for,
An ADU?
I'm sorry?
An ADU.
ADU?
Oh. I think that they would have to start with the building department,
Right.
planning and zoning. I'm not sure what the zoning of the town offers, if they have specific areas that they.
No, it's
want.
everywhere except for one district.
It would be everywhere except for one, so I would imagine that would be written into the law,
Mhm.
maybe where those areas are. They would confer with the building department. They'd have to get a building permit, they'd have to get a CO. It could not be granted until either one of those were met. I would say building, planning and zoning.
And also they have to verify that their septic system can accommodate
Yeah,
the
of
additions.
course.
Board of
Of
Health,
course.
yeah. And then you would get a file and review as assessor for approving the change?
Well, I would imagine they would probably apply once they have a CO. I would probably be the last to know.
Exactly, last change. So
Once they
then-
wanted the exemption, they would come in
And then you would adjust the assessment?
if they qualify,
Right.
correct? Yeah. Depending upon what options you choose.
Right.
Any other question for you released, Donna?
And again, thank you for taking the time to
You're
explain to
welcome.
the public. you know.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's very, a lot of the law is legal, so
Mhm.
any questions that come up, I mean, I'm doing the best I can to read them and then get advice from people, but I would definitely have to read it.
That's great. I mean, I think because of the extent of this, that we should probably read it before the next meeting, or the meeting after, so we can have a certain more involved discussion that we're going to see.
Okay?
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have, oh yes, I'm sorry.
No.
That's fine, it's the announcement for discussion.
There they go. Okay, the next item is applying for a New York Department of State Smart Growth Planning Grant for the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee. That was something they requested, which would be helping to fund the next step of their process. It's a, what?
I never saw the attachment.
I emailed about this, that it was no attachment, kept saying something was attached.
Did they come, I'm sorry, did they come from Ian? Did that have an attachment?
No, it came from.
Oh. Okay, that's weird. I'll have to do that and we'll try again next week. Okay. And then the next one is the operations, maintenance, and mitigation monitoring plan for the town of Amelia electric vehicle charging stations located in the Mechanic Street parking lot. Which, has anyone gone through that, had any thoughts on the blanks to be filled in?
I didn't feel like it should be Mike, that should be the one monitoring.
Okay,
That was
So-
my thought.
would you, before our meeting next Thursday, would you all look at that and just see if you have suggestions for who that should be? And if you pass them on, we'll see if, if we can resolve this at the next meeting.
I think going back and what I remember is that there was, maybe it's since been changed, something new about the town constables and enforcing violations. Is that out?
No, I don't think it's out, I don't think it's changed. I
So
mean,
we can't possibly do that.
well, that's why we need to figure out who's going to do that.
Right.
This is for operations, maintenance, and mitigation monitoring. I don't, constables, I mean, they would do the operation of maintenance on this.
I think that there may be an agreement with the person who's kind of the, Charlie, do you know the answer to that question?
Well, Ian, what were you going to say?
No, so I think the board hasn't had an opportunity to look at this yet. I think it makes sense for us to look at the document. The document explains the tasks and it leaves a blank for the individuals who are to accomplish that. So in some of these instances, it would make sense that it's the same person, and some it may not. It's just really for the board to direct who they want to be in charge of this item. Really, that's all there is to it. There's not much other than that.
Yeah, so the stations themselves are maintained by the vendor, so this is really just like looking at it and the extent of it needs maintenance, which would be a code enforcement thing, with, they report, oh, this needs maintenance. I just want to stress that if you guys could please review this and make a decision, it is a requirement for our grant, and it has been on your desk for months. Okay?
Charlie, we have that idea, but what that has brought up is some unanswered questions.
Yes, you guys discussed this 2 months ago, and it's the
Right.
same thing. So it needs to be changed. Just put a name in there.
And you don't have
You
the
can change it at any point.
And we don't have the answers as well, so that's kind of where we are.
Well,
Yeah.
right, I mean, but it is incumbent on us to make decisions about the people to fill in those names. So all of us look at that and decide on that before our next meeting,
And
and
who
be
was
done.
that throughout Mike for all of the responsibility?
What?
I forget who it was that said that.
Me, I was throwing him under the bus. You're welcome.
There is an aspect in here that there, it does indicate we will pass a law, a local law with regards to parking there, so we can actually enforce parking there, otherwise you have really no teeth to anything, so that will be something that we'll have to do, I've done it in other municipalities. But that would be something that you can task the constable with doing.
Is this something we can accomplish as well?
What's that?
The next
You
meeting?
mean reading the document?
No, coming up with the answers.
The individuals, yeah, the appointments, yes, that's something we can absolutely do by the 12th. Once I have confirmation of that, the next step would be for me to take the document with completed now, and I would go back to the county, get a formal okay from the county, go through the approval process with the county, and then that gets incorporated into the grant, and we can pass that local law thereafter. There's no immediate rush to that local law right now, but, Charlie, what's I believe it's September is the install date, right? We gotta have it by September,
Yes.
Yes.
right? So we gotta pass a local law by September. We can do that.
Yeah, but let's try to make the decisions about filling in the blanks before the next meeting.
Right.
Okay. That is the end of our discussion items. We are doing resolutions, we have a consent agenda. We've removed the item from the non-consent agenda to after the next executive session. Yes, please, take it
All
away,
right.
Dawn.
Okay, so is there a motion to accept the consent agenda resolutions as follows? Number 63 of 2025, authorized transfer of funds. 64, authorized closure of Fergus Bank Road for the Rattlesnake Run. Resolution number 65, authorized purchase EV stations with the Lily Pad EV charging points. Resolution number 66, authorizing hire of painting contract for the exterior repair work at Town Hall. Resolution number 67, authorized Recreation Commission to suspend park rules for the summer concert series.
I make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, consent agenda passes.
Ian?
No,
Before we get there, the summer intern question, would that be for our next meeting?
Yeah, there's been some other correspondence, yeah.
That would be for the 12th theoretically, right?
Yeah, there was emails back and forth on that with the board, I just need direction.
Okay, great.
So direction meaning that you need to know whether we want you to do a resolution or
No,
not?
we don't need one. Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
determined that. It wasn't done
Oh,
last year.
okay.
Yeah, I don't think it requires it as long as my recommendations and that email were
Okay, let's see, other matters. There are two other grants that should be looked at next week. One is an application to the DEC for a grant to help build a highway salt shed. This salt shed is the only part of the garage that can be, that is eligible for grants because it's presumably preventing the salt from washing into the Passaic Creek. And then there's a motion to apply for a grant from the Foundation for Community Health to do outreach on the WEC programs. Do you want to explain that briefly, Judy?
Christina Gass, who is the town's grant writer and the Recreation Commission's grant writer, came to us, I don't see her, came to us saying that the Sharon Community Foundation, the Sharon Foundation for Community Health, was interested in helping us with a grant that would allow the Recreation Commission to update its master plan. The last time it was updated was 2006. We did meet with her on Tuesday. This sounds very exciting, very helpful. It would involve all of the things that were done last time. It would involve a lot of community input, but the thing we would finally wind up with is the funds to pay for a company that would conduct the research and create a new master plan for us. The typical award, she said, is between $20,000 and $50,000. There's no matching funds required, so if we get this done, we would be able to redo our master plan at no cost to the town, which is pretty exciting. I only want, the town board would eventually have to approve the application for the grant, but right now, what I would like is just permission to go ahead and start the process. We would like to, we have money in recognition funds to pay for the grant writer. It's $2,600. So we would like to be able to sign a contract with her and start this process. So I'm looking for permission to do that.
It's a short-term contract, right?
Yes. Yes, this would be done by, it would be submitted by September. So this is, I hate to say it's not a complex grant, but it's not a complex grant. It's not looking for a lot of information other than what we can work out with her. And she's confident that we can get this done. And she will prepare it and submit it. Okay, I'll wait for the public comment.
Okay, so,
But I have a question about that. So if you need to do the recognition, administer that grant?
Yes, although again, the administration of that grant is going basically to simply be working with the people who are doing the update on the master plan for us. They'll need us to say, do you want us to handle this that way, or do you want us to handle it? But this is something the Recreation Commission would, by its very nature, be involved in, because we're the ones who are setting the guidelines and the parameters and all of that. So there's no administration other than that. We should not have a problem with the
Ian, we could have a resolution about the 12th on that.
Yeah, I would request any information you have on that, to send it to me, thank you very much.
Okay, I'm sorry, I said that, yes, and that's it.
Yeah, if I have it, I can use that to a resolution authorizing. Yeah.
any other matters?
I was wondering where we stood with the video equipment.
The installation of the video equipment is going to start June 20th. The guy who's designed the system is going to be installing it by himself. I think the order just went into B&H, and I think the only question was who's going to run into the building. And I think that John Nowak was able to do it Friday. I volunteered for Saturday, and that was basically it. We just need to be here and put the stuff together. The order was placed today, I think. Charlie, are you involved in that? Tomorrow?
Yeah, we just had to set up an account with B&H, so hopefully by tomorrow it'll be ordered, and the monitors are the only thing that has to be drop shipped by a third party, so hopefully that's only a week. So everything should be here within 15 days or so.
Great. Anything else with that?
Now, do we have an update on the Main Street letter?
On the Main Street letter, now I haven't updated that. Okay. To involve with other things. Any other town board comments?
I have one little update.
You go.
On Sunday, DJ and my husband and the rec staff maintenance, removed the old playground at Lincoln Park, which is just a big section, so it's ready for, installing a new one. The vendor contacted me and said that they reached out to me and updated, it was supposed to be delivered the week of 6/2. So yesterday, he contacted me and said, our installers don't know where, we don't have a date on finding out what's going on. So, hopefully it's going to be starting next week, obviously.
I actually do have a comment. The Eco Girl flashing lights, we're back to that again. So, as you know, the DOT basically said, yes, there's a need for it. You've been doing your yourself or wait for us, and it may be 10 years down the road. And they had a lot of other requirements, so, which is very frustrating. So I actually reached out to Assemblyman Beeson, and he was very cooperative, and he asked me to send him all of the information, the traffic study which was done, and the letter from DOT, and then he had one of his teams reach out to DOT, and so they are, it's not dead yet,
That's good. Good.
so.
Thank you. Are there any town board comments? No town board comments, that means public comment on all business, 3 minutes each. So, if you're interested in speaking, Marge is first at the podium.
So, Mark Arnold, I am a bookkeeper for the town of Media.
And speak into the microphone, you pick it closer to the microphone.
And
So they can hear you having, TV on.
Okay. And I'm here tonight because I want to introduce the town board to the employees of the town of Media. Except for me, who you have to come sign vouchers with, and with the exception of Supervisor Blackman, you don't really know these employees because you haven't come in to meet them, find out what their job entails, ask if there's anything you can do to make their job easier, or even give them an idea of how they can improve their job performance. The residents of the town know us better than you do, as these employees are the people who get them building permits, marriage licenses, senior exemptions, planning or zoning board appearances, pay tickets to, or even depend on to have the ball field ready for them to play a game. So let me tell you a little bit about your employees. One of them has served this town for 35 years, 3 for 20, 2 for over 15, 5 for 10 years, and all but 3 of the rest have been here between 5 to 10 years. That is a grand total of 269 years that your employees have served this town. I'm sure most residents would agree that you cannot buy this type of loyalty and experience anywhere. And for this service to the town, this is what the employees get in return. One of us is making only 50 cents an hour more than the minimum wage in New York State. 4 make less than an employee on the McDonald's food line. And almost all are some of the lowest paid employees in towns and villages in Dutchess County. We've watched new employees to the town receive salaries more than many of us, but have said nothing, as they have advanced education and experience that make them more valuable. And we were hired commensurate with our education and experience as well, and that was fair to all of us. But your latest hire in the town without those same qualifications was hired at a salary that is more than 4 of your employees who have worked in this town between 2 and 7 years. This was the breaking point for many of us, and one that shows us how undervalued, unappreciated, and invisible we are to the town board. One position is not more important than others. All of us are equally valuable to that one town resident who needs us and seeks out our help. You, the town board, and we as employees need to work together to give the best possible service to the residents of Amelia and Wasaya. And that will start with you actually getting to know us.
Thank you, Marge. Others? Are there other employees that want to follow up on that? All right, you're a past employee. Thank you, Sue.
Good evening, my name is Susan Metcalf, and I've lived in this town for most of my 80 years. I'm here this evening to address a very important matter, wages. I'm a former employee of town of Media for 17 and a half years and know firsthand that the wages one starts at here are far below most of the county, if not below us. There are employees here that are trying on 2 salaries to make ends meet. They have knowledge of their jobs and work hard for the town every day. Have you ever followed these employees around for just one day and just see what they actually do? It's a lot. If not, please consider doing this before you say no to any wage increases. Thank you.
employees want to speak, and then we'll go into other matters. Okay, anyone else want to speak that is not an employee? Okay, go right ahead.
So just for the record, the clerk was forwarded public comment from Nina Peak, who spoke on behalf of, as the planning board, and she also made a public comment in regards to salaries, and that has been circulated to the town board members.
Okay, thank you. I'm very different matter. My name is Emerald Slevin. I wasn't able to attend your last board meeting, but a number of residents spoke out about your Sullivan and Hollow Peak. I would like to make some comments as well. There seem to have been
Laurence, can you just get closer to the microphone?
There seem to have been some misunderstanding among many as to the hours and days when operations can take place at this proposed mining settlement. But if you read it carefully, as I've done, there's actually nothing that stipulates the hours that for actual operating the mine. It states the days and times material may be either sold or removed from the mine, but not when it can be extracted, sorted, crushed, washed, actually processed, which can take place any time of the day, or all week long. For instance, at this time of year, it could be from 5:30 in the morning till 8:30 at night, at 8:30 when the sun sets. I'm happy to read some of the wording of the settlement to you in case I think some people who've on your board have misunderstood this. I'm happy to point out some of the terms, but I don't want to waste my 3 minutes on that. I'm sure that you should read it carefully yourselves. As for the 24,000 cubic yards that may be removed from the mine, do you know how many trucks it will take to remove that material? I'll tell you. It will take 10 to 12 standard dump trucks per day, and that's if it's spread out evenly over the days removal is allowed. Could be twice as many trucks on any given day. Do you realize how devastating this is to the residents of South Armenia, and even Mosaic, to our land values, to our well-being, to all the efforts we in the Oblong Valley have made over the years to keep thermal mining and quarrying out, to maintain the valley as a rural, agricultural, historically important segment of the town of Armenia, to the over 50 acres that have been put into conservation easements in order to keep it rural and agricultural. We are not outliers in this town. From Troutbeck down to South Armenia, we are the Weegatuk Agricultural Valley Historic District, which you have marred with this settlement. By agreeing to this, you chose not to defend the town's zoning code. Kent Hollow's lawsuit was about the so-called bias among certain members of the CDA, which the judge chose to uphold. But those of us who have lived here for years, I've been here for 40 years, I know that's not a long time, but we have all been able to document that Kent Hollow did not remove material on a continuous basis over the years. The CBA was justified in 2019 in refusing their application for a non-conforming use to mine. But you have sold us out. Thank you. And in the process have weakened the town's comprehensive plan and zoning legislation.
Thank you. Please.
My name is Phil Sicker. I live in South Media Road. We have for about almost 30 years. And like Laurence, I want to address a serious problem in the settlement with Kent Hollow that 3 members of the town board approved. I'll call your attention to a specific passage in section 4C, and I quote, Kent Hollow shall keep contemporaneous records of materials sold commercially and those removed from the property for use by any of its affiliated entities. Spot checks by the town will be permissible under reasonable circumstances. Now, the language here is deliberately vague and contains gaping loopholes that raise several problems. First, the suggestion that the town will be permitted to check on Kent Hollow and whether or not Kent Hollow is limiting itself to the amount of material and the time permitted to remove it, that they should somehow be permitted to do it is outrageous. Come on. This monitoring should not be Kent Hollow's choice, but something that the town requires. and not merely in the form of occasional spot checks. Kent Hollow's record of past deception makes serious surveillance imperative. Second, what are the, quote, reasonable circumstances for monitoring at all, and who determines this, Kent Hollow or the town? Finally, there is nothing in the settlement that addresses the question of who will enforce the terms of the settlement when, invariably, trust me, Kent Hollow violates them. What specific authority will be responsible for making Kent Hollow answerable for its infractions? The ambiguity of the language in this section of the settlement is practically an invitation to Kent Hollow to do whatever it wants. So, in view of the evasiveness and the ambiguity of this part of the settlement, I have to wonder, like Laurence, how closely board members actually read before they signed. If there is any way to address the issues that I've identified, or that Laurence has identified in the renegotiation, I would really urge you to do so.
Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, Judy.
Well, I had 2 comments, now I have 3. One, I absolutely agree that the salaries of most of the people who work in the town hall offices are too low. My suggestion on how to fix this would be to raise the salaries of the people who are here, not to complain about the qualifications of anyone who's being hired now. Just my opinion. As far as the website goes, I guess I have to ask because I can't get an answer from Charlie. He said it's the supervisors or whoever is this. I would like to make sure that the recreation department will be able to access our own pages. The idea that we have to rely on somebody else to make any changes, we've had 2 instances this last year. One when there was no stadium at the last minute. Currently, the problem with the pool. To have someone that we can access to make a statement or change on that page for 24 hours out of the 168 there are in a week is not good enough. We need to be able to make changes of our own on the pages. Let me see. Oh, there are also corrections that need to be made on the website. But I can talk to Charlie about that. Well, I guess that was it. Those are 2 comments here.
Thank you. Anyone else? In that case, I'm going to move that we close the public meeting and, no? Yeah. I'm making a motion to go into executive session. Thank you.
For the purpose of legal advice?
Mhm.
As set forth in the agenda.
And so everybody knows you are coming back afterwards, so everybody knows.
Or any action we take?
That's what they, the video, we'll know.
So Matt, we take
I'm sorry?
Matt?
Does Matt need to come back?
If you're coming back on,
Yeah.
Okay, then I guess we would assume yes.
sorry, man.
Hopefully it won't be
Pause it
too
again.
long.
No problem.
Are you ready now?
I move that we come out of executive.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I move that we return to the public meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
How about that? And I now move that we take a vote on resolution 68. Shall I read that? Okay. Should have gotten more water. Resolution number 68 of 2025, appointing planning board member. Whereas there now exists a vacancy on the Town of Armenia Planning Board due to the resignations of John Stephanopoulos, term expiring December 31st, 2031, and whereas Lizette Foz Bullock has expressed a desire to be appointed to fill the vacant positions on the planning board, now therefore be resolved as follows. One, the recitation set forth above or incorporated in this resolution is fully set forth and adopted herein. The Town Board of the Town of Armenia hereby designates and appoints Lizette Foz Bullock to the Town of Armenia Planning Board effective immediately as follows. As follows.
Appointment.
Appointment.
Lizette Foz Bullock.
Oh, right.
With a term expiring of December 31st of 2031.
Okay. There wasn't a blank here.
Because you fill it
Okay.
in. You did good.
All right, thank you. All right. Oh, I made that motion.
Oh,
Sorry.
great, thank you.
I got distracted.
I'll second.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Drugler?
No.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern? Yes. Motion carried. Resolution.
We'll go make up Paul Babcock, but I'm sure he'll be happy. Then I move that we adjourn.
I'll second. And it's
It is time.
9:27. And just as again, a friendly reminder, special meeting next Thursday, June 12th.
I will send you.
And thank you all for
All in
attending.
favor?
I'll be
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Very good, thank you. Have a great evening.
It was not a match.